Yeah, these are the coral spiders we use. We plant them just outside on the reef at around 5 meters deep. We buy the rebar ourselves, we cut it, and then we bend it into shape. And each coral spider has 18 attachment points. You can put one piece of coral here, here, and then on the long arm, and multiply that by 6 and you get 18. It's quite nice because once you put them into the reef, they can kind of fit together into a little hexagon pattern.
lattice.
Yeah, perfect, a lattice. And then you can connect the legs. Quite nice because firstly the coral can start to grow on the structure itself, but then the really nice thing is that over time all the legs being placed into the rubble patch will help stabilize the coral rubble, and in the coming years more and more natural coral with fruit will then start to proliferate. There we go. On the substrate. So,
and you're saying that helps to stabilize the rubble as well?
Yeah. So one of the main problems, of course, is that when you have a large rubble patch and then you have the wave action and the currents coming through, it's always kind of in motion, and then any natural coral gametes or so that land on these patches will inevitably mostly die. So it's really nice because once they become stabilized by all these legs, the natural coral that would grow here then gets a chance to grow. So we kind of seed the area just with our coral spiders, and then whenever we have pieces that are too small to attach to the spider, we'll also just kind of drop into the rubble patch, and then those will get the chance to basically attach.
So this is like refracting the wave energy and whatever else is going on a little bit?
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes it easier for everything.
So it slows down as the currents are coming through, as the wave action is kind of pushing and pulling, the spider will kind of disrupt that energy, and then as well it'll push its legs about maybe 4 centimeters deep into the patch, and it just actually gives some structure to the patch as well. So it can stop with the movement.
Cool.
Yeah, we have about 100 square meters out on the reef already.
You put some just out there?
Yep. So what we do is actually we just pick them up and we come and we do a shore dive. So we just gear up and we pick ourselves out just past the reef crest, and then at around 6 meters, 5 meters there's a really large rubble patch. So we've probably tackled close to 15 to 20% of it so far with what we've done. And now that we've finished that patch, we're going to move on to another patch. It's really nice because you can start with 3 or 4 different patches, and then as they grow out, they can kind of meet in the center, and then you have a really large area that's actually covered.
Yeah. Cool. And what inspired you to do this project?
The coral. So it was actually fellow interns. So when the project first started, I was really focused on turtles. Like we were talking about before, we document them, then do the photo identification. And then some of the interns that came in, they really wanted to try coral restoration. And I had actually no experience with it really. I didn't really know much about it. I thought, why not look it up? You know, so I started reading some research papers, and it just seemed like this was one of the most efficient and low cost as well methods of actually planting. So it's really nice because it's really hands-on. You know, like I was saying, we get to buy the metal, we drag it along on our scooter, we cut it all, we bend it all, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see something grow. Like the turtle database is really nice because we can see that grow, like in number. But it's really nice to have something out here that's also growing.
It's really tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to actually work on a farm for about 2 years in the west coast of Canada, so I really like growing things. And while coral aren't exactly plants, it's really nice to have something that you can watch grow like that over time.
Yeah.
It's really like gratifying to see.
Yeah, cool. So good. And what do you hope will become of this patch? Like, just do you think it might be like a new house reef, or? Yeah.
Well, there's a couple different things. So there's one. We have an intern who's doing some 3D modeling. So we're hoping that we can actually create a 3D model of the and kind of track it over time as it grows. Then there's another really interesting thing that we're doing. So we're actually putting sets of about 5 spiders, very similar to this, right? And we're creating 5 spiders, and then about 10 meters away another patch of 5 spiders. And what we're actually going to start testing is different planting techniques. Because right now mostly everybody uses the branching aquaphora as for the coral restoration. What we do is we actually use mixed coral planting. So we do have maybe about 10% aquaphora branching, but then we have all the other different species as well, varieties and poculopora and so on and so forth. So we're actually setting up, or planning to set up, a couple different little replicas, and we have these so we can over time drop one every couple of years or so, and then we can start to analyze the differences in maybe fish assemblages that come to a mixed versus non-mixed coral plantation area, and then who knows, maybe we'll also see some difference in growth patterns, or we could also see, maybe there might be bleaching in a couple of years, and maybe one patch will be more resilient to bleaching, and that's something we'll be able to check. So really interesting and exciting for that.
Well, I suppose that would be a challenge as well when you're doing the restoration. The branching of Propera grows the best, and everybody wants to plant the branching of Propera, but if it's just a monoculture,
exactly.
You can set it for coral, but if it's just one species, then it's not necessarily ideal, because something comes through and just wipes it all out.
Exactly.
So, yeah, going to that option of having that diversity.
So the thing with aquaphora is that, one, it grows so quickly, so you see results very quickly, which is positive, of course. And then the other thing is that many of the reefs here are aquaphora dominated, so it's also very easy to find lots of fragmented aquaphora. When we go out, sometimes we need to spend 10 minutes, leaving from the coral patch to try to actually find something different from aquaphora. So it's just a little bit more labor intensive. And it's something I thought of as well from my time farming again. It was a small scale vegetable farm, so we did kind of like permaculture and such. You really got to see how, having more genetic diversity in a patch is always good. It increases the resilience and just general health of the reef, or the patch of vegetables, or the blueberries, or whatever it might be. So I know what I think, of course. I think that if bleaching does end up happening, the mixed structures will probably be able to rebound much quicker. But there's not really much research that's actually looking at that. So we just thought it'd be cool to try to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful reef here, and we have a lot of willing participants, and just excited to do it.
Setup. Yeah. And do you have some kind of contribution from the dive master that goes towards these kind of projects, or are you using?
So it's built into the fee. So about half of the internship fee goes towards the dive center for like the actual certification and stuff, and then about half the fee will then go to Project Laut, the conservation side of the project. So this helps us, obviously purchase the materials and hopefully expand and bring more people on as well. It's been obviously tough with COVID. We haven't been able to expand too much yet, because it's mostly been keeping at the same level state. But with things starting to reopen, really hoping that we'll have some more people coming in, and then we can start to hire on advisors and stuff like this, and maybe even branch out and have a couple different locations around Indonesia.
So cool.
Yeah.
Incredible work. So good. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the project. Yeah, sounds awesome. Can't wait to see. Is there somewhere that we can follow the progress? Do you put stuff? Do you have social media?
So I have social media, Instagram, project_Laut. We also have a website that we're going to start trying to do a blog, so to kind of keep updated with what's going on. www.projectlaut.wordpress.com. I think that's it.
Cool.
Trying to start a YouTube, but it's not up and running yet. So.
It takes a lot of energy to start a YouTube and a lot of time.
Yeah, social media in general, it's
consuming.
Yeah, it is. So I'm trying to, one of the interns here actually, she's a bit of a social media whiz, so she's trying to get everything set up that will kind of help us get established.
So good. Oh, thank you.
To be clear, how do you spell Laut?
Laut.
Perfect.
Yeah, Laut. Just the turtles. I think we spoke quite a bit about the coral, but really love the turtle project, the turtle side of the project. It actually started with the turtles. So the turtles they have, the turtles we have here, the hawksbill turtle, critically endangered. They have a pattern on the side of their face which acts like a thumbprint. So we take around GoPros on all of our dives and do our best to get identifying photos of all the turtles we see.
And that's both sides of the face?
Yeah, both sides of the face. And if we get both sides of the face, we can run them through software that software, and then we go through and visually confirm if it's a resighting or if it's a new individual. And if it's a new individual, we log it, we give the name, and we enter it into the database and such. And just doing that, really simple, but doing that consistently over a long period of time, you can get things, interesting metrics like just simply how many turtles actually live in this marine protected area, first and foremost. But then things like how long does a turtle stay on average? Once we sight it for the first time, does it stay for 3 years? Does it stay for 3 months? And then does it leave? Does it come back after a couple of years? So it's pretty simple, but as long as you keep a steady sampling effort, you can actually find some pretty interesting stuff about the turtles here. And then ideally, once we set up 1 or 2 more projects around, we're trying to focus on areas that have a high density of hawksbill turtles. The idea is that we can hopefully start to map, maybe from Penida, 80% of the turtles or something like this. So it can be pretty interesting.
Cool. How many turtles have you documented so far?
So far we have about 160 individual turtles that we've ID'd in the last year. And resightings, we've probably seen most turtles at least on average 3 times. So we get a lot of data from it.
Oh, nice. And is this project being done in other places? So if other people are doing the same thing, they can actually track where else the turtles go?
Yeah, so there's a couple different places that track the turtles. There's one in the Gillies actually, Gilly Shark Conservation Fund. And I've reached out to them and they have some turtle data, but mostly for them it's actually green turtles. There's not as many hawksbill there. There's one organization that does it in, I think, the Philippines, and they have a good backlog of data. But in Indonesia and Bali area, I don't think there's a place that does it as much as we do. And that's the problem too, is the consistency. Like there's lots of places that do it, but then the data that they're collecting isn't consistent over time, and for us we're really thinking that if we are the ones to do this, we can really become the people for turtles.
Yeah.
The turtle people.
The turtle people.
The turtle people.
So good. Do you know why the hawksbill is critically endangered?
Coral. So they eat not coral itself, but the sponge in between the coral. So they need a lot of healthy hard coral to grow, basically. And as you'd imagine, as coral populations around the world are steadily declining, hawksbill turtles are declining as well. It's not just that though, there is some fishing pressure. There's certain areas, like I mentioned before, Ternate, where they're caught for their shells. The hawksbill shell, it doesn't look the nicest from when you're in the water, but then once you actually polish it down, it is the classic turtle shell or tortoise pattern.
Very pretty.
Yeah, people love it. They make glasses out of it. Sometimes they make like little knickknacks and furniture and everything. Yeah. So a mixture, I think, of just declining coral populations and then also just as a luxury good.
Yeah. So the interest in the turtle is what brought about the interest in the coral?
Yeah, exactly. And I thought they kind of pair quite well together, right? Because there's the turtles and there's the coral coverage, and if we're studying the coral coverage, it's pretty easy to relate that back to the turtles, and maybe if there's a decrease in the coral, we can see a measured decrease in turtle population, or vice versa. If there's an increase in coral population in this area, then we might see the turtles coming back too.
So cool.
Yeah.
Oh, really exciting little research projects.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
A lot of passion.
Yeah, a lot of passion and a lot of time, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But moving forward.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing.